Yes. Hi. Good morning. Welcome. My name is Mallory Redmond, and I am the campus pastor here at City Church, where our purpose is to help you experience the fullness of God's love through relationship. Welcome to those of you who are joining from your couch. If you live locally, kind of a great day to join us from your couch. It's terrible outside. So thank you. You have joined us in person. You get extra credit. So I'm doing this cleanse. What day am I on?
47.
I'm on day 15. It's 21 days. It's a 21-day cleanse. If you're curious how long 21 days is, the answer is 11 years. It is a really long time. And so I've preached like enough times that I don't know how many times, which should instill some confidence in you about me, but I've never preached decaffeinated. So today is my first decaffeinated sermon. I have not had caffeine in 2 weeks. When you see me next Sunday, I still will not have had caffeine. So, with that being said, you know how we started off here to get the room moving. Yes, you know! Who needs caffeine? We have Jesus. Okay, so, I don't need to give you a pair of shoes. We've got Joy. Who won the pair of shoes, by the way? Charlie? Somebody phone in Charlie. Keep that man honest. He's giving away shoes. All we have is joy and clapping. And that's enough. That is enough. Okay, so we are in week 3 of our series called Unlearn. So we're kind of talking about things that have been kind of programmed within us that maybe were helpful at a different time, but now we need to unlearn them so that we can make space to continue learning or to hear and see what the Lord has for us in this season that we're in. So I am coming to you today out of Proverbs 3:5-6, which was a very dramatic thing for me when I found out that this was the passage that I was speaking from today. I got a little upset. I called Charlie and I'm like, really? Proverbs 3:5-6. This is like the most basic verse ever. Because I grew up in church and I memorized this like right off the bat and I wanted something different. I'm super fun and easy to work with. And so it kind of started off like as I was preparing for today, it kind of like unlearn kind of started off for me right off the bat with that reaction of like, well, we've all heard Proverbs 3:5-6 1,000 times. What more is there? Like, what new things is there to share about that verse? And it's like, sometimes maybe unlearning is just like taking yourself off autopilot, right? And like actually being present and believing that the word is alive and there are always new things to glean from it. When I was in college, I went to college in Iowa, and I lived in the Chicago area, so it was a 3-hour drive. And one time, I was driving back to college by myself, and I was probably listening to, like, Rascal Flatts or something, and just completely, like, just loving life, right? And I remember exactly where I was, just past DeKalb, and a cop like comes up behind me and I'm like, oh, that sucks for somebody else, completely unaware of my speed, like no idea. And then he's like behind me and I'm like, wonder what's happening. Like there's no way he's pulling me over. He was pulling me over and I was going, there's a statute of limitations because I'm sure I didn't tell my parents this story, but I was going like in the 90s, like 90 something. Just like had no idea because I'm just like loving, like it was super fun. And I remember the cops came to my window and he was like, were you on cruise control? And I'm like, cruise control on 90? Like, no. First of all, no, I never set cruise control to 90. I'm not an idiot. I just drive 90. Two, no, how boring is cruise control? Like, I'm 20 and in college, I'm not using cruise control. all of that being said, autopilot can be kind of boring. And you just like skirt right through, and you don't really have to think about anything. You don't have to dig into anything. Like, you're just there, and you're sitting there, and you are moving. And sometimes that is the thing that we have to unlearn. Like, there is always more that we can glean from life. And so autopilot can be a really easy thing to do, but a really boring thing to do, because we need to be awake and alive to all that is happening. And so with that being said, I am preaching today out of Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, and wouldn't you know, like, I got something out of those verses this week. So last time that I was here was not in this series, but we were talking about Mary, and just how much bigger God is than we can even imagine. And so this is a pretty natural step from that last message that I preached, just talking about now, like, the practicalities. Like, once you start to understand that you don't really understand God, then what do you do? And I think Proverbs 3 has some like really practical advice. And so what I want to do is just like take us through each line of this verse and hopefully get us a little bit off of autopilot into actually like hearing what the word has to say to us, to you, where you are today. So Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. So there's 3 yours and a he, right? 3 yours and a he. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make straight your paths. And so clearly in these 2 verses, like, you're a super active part of this, right? Like, we're not just being told these things, like, we are being invited to actually be doing something. Your stuff, you matter a lot here. Because it's easier to move ahead when you move aside. It's easier to move ahead when you move aside. So maybe you feel afraid, or you feel stuck, or you feel purposeless, or alone, or overwhelmed, or heavy, or confused, whatever it is. Like, if you're feeling that today, or you felt it in the past, or you'll probably feel it again in the future, it is easier for you to move ahead when you move aside. So sometimes the thing that we have to unlearn is that we don't have to figure it all out. Like, we do not have to rely on ourselves. Self-reliance is like such a cultural thing, right? Like, just pull up your bootstraps, or whatever that is. Pull your bootstraps, something with bootstraps, and figure it out. Make it work. Make it happen. Like, you can do it. Be self-sufficient. Get creative. Get tough. And sometimes, like, when it comes to kingdom living, like, that's not how it really works. You don't have to be the one figuring it out. You don't have to get tough. You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to make it work. You don't have to bend over and contort yourself and do all of these things to make it happen. It's easier to move ahead when you move aside. Self-sufficiency does not always equal efficiency. So a few years ago, I went to the chiropractor for the first time, and they did all these like pictures and x-rays and everything, and really great news. The chiropractor said, okay, so you are walking around as if your head is 32 pounds. And I'm like, great, here's $700. Thank you for the tip. But this is like a real thing. I thought it was just me, but I don't think it is. This is a real thing. So I'm the middle guy, 32 pounds. That's how I've been walking around, as if my head weighs 32 pounds, because I stretch my neck forward and whatever. It's a whole thing. A lot of us do it. You might be a 42-pounder. We'll judge everybody as they exit the room today. We're going to measure. So I'm living as if my head weighs 32 pounds. And, like, I walked out of the chiropractor's office, and I'm like, first of all, that was fun. Like, I feel great about myself. Second of all, why am I making things so much harder than they should be? Right? Like, why am I living as if my head is 20 pounds heavier than it has to be? Like, I don't have to be doing that. That is a choice that I am making. I'm making this way harder than it has to be. And I'm just getting in my own way. And short term, like, I'm taking the easy way out, because I think day to day it's like, well, this is more comfortable. But long term, that's why my chiropractor has a really nice house, because it has long-term effects. And so we make decisions in our everyday life to avoid a scary thing, which is trusting that God's already gone before us. He's done it. He's trying to clear the path. He's making it straight for us. He's sending us on our way. But shouldn't I take care of it? Like, I can do this. I can be the one that makes the decisions and that figures it out and that pulls up my bootstraps and makes it happen. And in Proverbs 3, the Lord's saying, like, no, you don't have to be the one that's making it happen. You don't have to be the one doing this. Get out of your own way. Stop making it harder than it has to be. That doesn't mean it's easy. It's actually, if you've ever stood like your head is 12 pounds, it's actually quite difficult. There are exercises that you can do to get better at it. But it's not always very natural, right, to stand that way. I think a lot of us stand as if our head is heavier than it needs to be. But in the long term, that's what we want. We want the lighter head. We want the easier way. And so it's easier to move ahead when you move aside and get out of the way. You're in your own way. You're your own biggest barrier. And I'm an Enneagram 2, and so I want to now exit the stage and go to each one of you and be like, but you're doing a great job. I'm not trying to be too hard on you. Not meant to shame you and not meant to blame you, but you're in your own way. You're your biggest problem. And this is actually really good news, because when it's your problem, you can fix it. It's not your boss's problem. It's not your spouse's problem. It's not your kid's problem. It's not God's problem. It's you. That's the best news. It's you. And the only person who can change your behavior is you. And not only that, but to make it even a little bit easier, we're told what we have to do. Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, this is instructions for getting out of our own way. So first of all, super easy, trust in the Lord with all your heart. So the Hebrew words here, because sometimes I get nerdy, not all the time, but sometimes, and I wanted to really get into the nitty-gritty of okay, Lord, I hear what you're saying, trust in the Lord with all my heart, but what are you actually saying here? This is what he's actually saying. To trust in, have confidence, to be bold, to be secure. That's trust. And then with all your heart, all your inner man or woman, for those of us that don't have an inner man, a mind, your will, your understanding. So that basically encapsulates everything, right? Your mind, your will, your understanding. Trust in the Lord with all you have. Your heart. So it's not trust in the Lord with all of your pastor's heart or your parents' heart or your spouse's heart. Are you going to trust on this one? Because if you are, then I can. This is all you. This is about you. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. We are conditioned, I think, I am conditioned to have a backup plan, right? If I have a backup plan, I'm super prepared, and then I don't really have to worry about things falling apart, because when plan A falls apart, I've got plan B. Trusting but having a plan B is not trusting with all of your heart, right? That's great that you're prepared, but that's not trusting with all of your heart. You don't need a plan B. When the Lord is the one that is making the way and you're to the side following him, you don't need a plan B. I grew up watching Friends, and so I have every episode memorized, and there's this one episode where Rachel, they're having Thanksgiving, and she wants to make the dessert, and so she doesn't bake or anything, and she brings the dessert to Thanksgiving and realizes that the one who is good at cooking didn't make a backup dessert in case hers sucks. And so she's all freaked out because she's so we're this is the dessert. We're having this dessert. You didn't make one in case this dessert is terrible. And oftentimes, I kind of want to go to a party with chocolates in my bag just in case the dessert sucks, because that's a pretty integral piece of the party, right? And the Lord is saying, you don't need a backup plan. I've got the plan. I've got it figured out. I've moved ahead of you. I see how this all works out. I know how the story ends. You can just follow. You can just trust with all of your heart. Don't worry about B, C, D, E, F, and all that could happen, all that could go wrong, all that you need to do to be prepared, because I've already got this figured out. Backup plans are put in place to play it safe. And in this context, Playing it safe is actually really scary because the more that you want to play it safe, the more that you're bound to stay stationary because you want to have it all figured out, and then you're not on the path that the Lord has for you, and the path that the Lord has for you is actually the safest place that you can be. Comprehension, figuring it all out, is not a prerequisite for living. I don't know who told you it was, but a lot of us have been led to believe that. Comprehension is not a prerequisite for living. And so, the next part, lean not on your own understanding. You will have understanding when you understand that you cannot always understand. Like, that's understanding. You will have understanding when you understand you cannot always understand. It shrinks your faith. Understanding shrinks what faith wants to expand. They can't go hand in hand all the time. Understanding stays small. Faith is massive. Faith is Mary, a virgin, getting pregnant with the Son of God. Understanding shrinks. Faith expands. Why do you have to understand everything? Super boring autopilot stuff. Why do you have to understand everything? Our understanding is so limited. You're brilliant. You're brilliant. I'm an Enneagram 2. You're brilliant. Beautiful mind. You can't understand everything. When my siblings and I were growing up, my brother, he was maybe 3, so I was probably 6, and this moment is etched in my memory. Like, I can see it like I'm there right now. And he was super into superheroes. And he had a lot of kids have these Batman pajamas that has a cape on the back. And so, like, you put the cape on, you are Superman. Or was it Batman? It was Batman. You are Batman, right? So he's Batman. He's, like, literally thinks he's Batman. And so he's got the cape on, the pajamas, the whole thing. He's 3 or whatever. And in the family room, and he has a chair. And, like, I remember seeing all of this happen and, like, it not really computing what he was going to do. In his mind, he's Batman. Keep that in mind, right? So he climbs up on the chair, and he stands there, and I'm seeing him, I'm like, okay, Ryan is standing on a chair, this is fine, everything's fine. And all of a sudden, he jumps because he's Batman. In his mind, he's Batman. He did not fly. Batman should have flown. He thought he was going to fly because he's got the whole thing on, and he did not fly. He broke his collarbone. God love him. He's fine. Everything's fine. But it was, and I did not get permission to tell that story, so I'm sorry, Ryan, but I love it so much. And this is the thing is, like, our understanding is so limited, and sometimes we think, like, okay, all my X's and O's are in place. Like, everything is as it should be. I have the cape. I have the uniform. I have the belief, like, I'm going to fly. And then you leap, and it's like, nope, broken collarbone at the hospital in a brace. And so we think that with our relationships, with our business, our work, like, everything is as it should be. This on paper looks like yes, 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 I'm going to fly. Because that's how our understanding works. It makes sense on paper. I'm going to jump, and I should fly. It made total sense to my brother, and of course it did. He had the cape. But our understanding is limited, and the Lord was saying, like, you're not flying. And maybe a different day, I don't know, Mary got pregnant as a virgin. Maybe a different day, Ryan would jump and he would soar through the roof. I don't know. My understanding is limited. But this is how we work so much, is like, I'm going to lean on my understanding because look at this. Like, this all makes sense. It should work out this way, this way, this way, this way. And then you jump and it's like kaput. Our understanding is limited. And here's, like, when all of this, like, I want to be very careful in how I talk about this, because I don't want it to sound like you have no brain and we're just like scarecrows walking around following and have no intellect of our own. Like, the Lord gave us intellect for a reason, wisdom for a reason. Like, our brain was put there for a reason. Like, we have the ability to think and create and do all of these things, but we're just supposed to do it, like, behind him. We're supposed to be following him. We're supposed to be listening to him. And so trusting fully on the Lord and not leaning on our own understanding does not mean setting aside your intellect and just like blindly following whatever. We're resting our intellect upon the intellect of God. A few years ago, I was going to move to Seattle. I was living in Chicago. I was going to move to Seattle. And I told my best friend who lived in Chicago with me, I'm like, I'm going to make like a little bucket list of things I want to do before leaving Chicago. And one of those things, obviously, because when you live in Chicago, you go horseback riding all the time. I'm like, why? I don't know why. I don't know why this was a thing that I did. This is not a picture of me, but this is what we did. Part of it. And then the other part, we were like on the side of a highway in Chicago. It was a very weird experience. But we fulfilled the bucket list before I moved to Seattle. And so I'm riding this horse, and like I'm not a horse rider. Like, this was not a thing that I did regularly, hence the bucket list item. And so at one point, my horse like went nutty and started like jumping. I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than to say at one point, like, I was literally airborne. Like, I was not resting on the horse. I was in the air and just totally trusting, like, this horse is reacting. Like, this horse knows what she's doing. I don't know what she's doing, but I'm trusting that she's acting or reacting with our best interest in mind. Because that's what I had to believe. Otherwise, I thought I was going to get trampled on and die. So I'm trusting, like, this horse knows what she's doing, and the horse trusts that I'm going to do what I need to do to stay safe as well. Like, I'm going to hold on to the reins, and I'm going to remain calm, and I'm going to stay loose, and I'm going to let the horse do what the horse needs to do for us, because I trust the horse, but like, I have a role to play too. Because if I let go and the horse was doing her thing, like, I'm on the ground, right? And so this is like the vision that I get when thinking of, like, don't set your intellect to the side. Like, you matter. Like, you're playing an active role here. It's not just like, move off to the side and follow and don't do a thing. Like, there are directives here. Like, there are things that we need to do as we are getting out of our own way. But like, you are still an active role, that you still have an active role that you need to play. And so trusting that the Lord knows what he's doing, even if it doesn't really make sense to me, like, I have no idea why this horse is going nutty right now, but I trust that it's happening for my benefit, and I'm going to do the things that I need to do in order to, like, stay a part of the story, right? But it's not about what you know. It's not about what you know, like I was acting very instinctively. It's about who you know. It's about who you know and not what you know. And so you know, okay, I can trust the Lord. I'm walking. I don't really understand exactly what's going on, but I know that I am seen, and I am being cared for, and I am being protected, and I know who I'm following. So let's go. In all your ways, acknowledge him. This is the third part that we are told. In all your ways, acknowledge him. So here it is. Like, these are sequential, right? Like, you can't lean on him if you don't trust him. And if you trust him and you're leaning on him, then you know he's there. And so you might as well acknowledge it, right? Like, have you ever walked into a room where you know a bunch of people and nobody says anything to you? Super, super, super awkward. The other day, I went to coffee with a friend of mine, and we were sitting in the coffee shop. We sat down, we got our coffee, and I'm sorry, excuse me. I got my tea. Thank you. I got my stupid tea and sat down. And you know when you, like, see somebody out of the corner of your eye? I saw someone, like, looking at me out of the corner of my eye, and so I, like, looked over, and I was like, ugh, because it was Mike DeWine. You know how, like, pictures of Mike DeWine are in every window right now because he's, like, watching you? Are you wearing a mask? And, like, staying 6 feet away. Well, Mike DeWine was in the window of this coffee shop, like, staring at me, and I'm like, whoa, there's Mike. But because it's a week that I'm preaching, everything becomes a sermon illustration. And so I had this thought of like, this is what it's like. You walk into a room, he's already there. Like the Lord's already there. You just got to acknowledge him. He's already there. He's like Mike DeWine. Or you have kids, like my Evie is getting to the age where she's becoming, you know how toddlers are sometimes kind of creepy? She's getting to this age now where like the other day, she was looking at me, but like looking past me, and she like waved. And like nobody else is home. And so I'm like, and she's like smiling, and I'm like, Ev, like, are you looking at me? And she's just like smiling and waving, but not looking at me. And I'm like, who do you see? Like, what's happening? Toddlers are super, super creepy. But she's acknowledging like something that I can't see. And I think this is sometimes like all it takes when we're feeling anxious or alone or stuck or afraid is just like, he's in the room. Like, just acknowledge that you see him in the room. Yesterday, I was here working on my message, and I went home, and I was in my room, and I was doing something in my closet, and I looked down, and there's a lemon in my shoe. And I'm like, what? And so my very first thought is like, Annie was here. There's a plastic lemon in my shoe. Annie was here. And like, these are the kind of little, a friend of mine calls them fingerprints. Like the Lord's fingerprints that you just can start to see when you have the eyes to see it. And it helps you along the journey, and it keeps you from being the main focus and makes him the main focus, because you're looking for what he's doing and not what you're doing, because what he's doing is so much better than what you're doing. And so you start to look for little things where it's like, he was here, he's here, he's here, he's here, and you just start to acknowledge his presence. And the more that you acknowledge his presence, the more that you see his presence. And it just sends you along the path that moves you along in the journey. If you start feeling alone or stuck, like start looking for lemons in your shoe, because I guarantee that you start to see them. Even if sometimes it's as crazy simple as like, wow, it's the middle of January and the sun is shining. Lemon in your shoe. Like, you just start to see little things, little glimpses of his presence. And before you know it, you're sitting down with your dumb tea, and it's like, ugh, there you are, Lord. But it says, in this passage, it says, in all of your ways, acknowledge him. In all of your ways, acknowledge him. And so, I mean, this is boundless, right? The ways that we can acknowledge him. If you're Evie, you wave, or you head nod, or you smile, or you dance, or you shout. Like, you start to expect his presence. And in all of your ways, like bodily, mentally, emotionally, like you are acknowledging he is here. And even if I feel super stuck, like I'm going nowhere, you start to acknowledge, like, okay, maybe this is a part of the journey, because he's still here. And as long as he's still here, I'm still going to be moving. There's still a plan for me. There's still a straight path that he is laying out for me. Look for lemons in your shoes. A friend of mine says, do you want a God you can explain or extol? Praise, worship. Like, do you want an explainable God, or do you want a God that is so wildly outside of the box, greater than you can ever imagine, that you can't help but worship him? You can't help but see things like the lemons in your shoe. And Abraham praised God, even though he didn't understand how he would ever become a father of the nations. David praised God in the wilderness. He didn't understand why he was running for his life instead of sitting on a throne. The Israelites praised God even though they didn't understand Jericho's wall would fall without a fight. Mary praised God even though she didn't understand how she was going to raise the Son of God, unwed, teenager. And like, this is what we're being invited into, to see and praise and acknowledge, even though we don't really get it, even though sometimes it seems impossible or really, really, really hard. Isaiah 55, I just wanted to toss this in because I love it so much. I don't think the way you think. The way you work isn't the way I work. For as the sky soars high above earth, so the way I work surpasses the way you work. and the way I think is beyond the way you think. And I think sometimes, like, we know this and we get it and we hear it, and, like, we've been saying it a lot here lately at City Church, like, the Lord is so much bigger than you can ever imagine. He could take you to some really wild places, do some really crazy things. And it's like, yes, okay, I get it, done. And then we go home and we, like, get afraid. We get back on social media and start sharing everything we're freaked out about. We want to stay safe in our tiny little houses, or maybe your really big house, I don't know. And we want to just, like, go about it on our own and make sense of everything. And stay up late at night thinking, okay, well, I did this, and I'm wearing the cape, and I should have the uniform, and so it all should work out this way. And the Lord's trying to blow it up. He's trying to blow it all up to show you, like, I'm so much bigger. My ways are higher. My ways are greater. My ways are bigger. You have intellect. You have knowledge. But that's just supposed to be a part of the journey. That's not supposed to be the thing that carries you the entire way. It's easier to move ahead when you move to the side. Let him in. We become our own worst enemies. We become our own biggest barriers, right? Like, it's not your situation. It's not the person that you can't stand. It's not where you are or where you wish you were. It's you. Like, we are our own barriers on the path that the Lord wants to put us on. I think about when I read this the first time this week with fresh eyes after I threw my tantrum. I thought about it like a treasure hunt. We used to do, are there still high school dances even? I don't know. When I was in high school, we had dances, and we would ask, like, our date in very elaborate ways. Like, it got very intense. And a treasure hunt was often kind of a go-to for people. And you would place little clues around, like, our town, and you would send the date that you want to ask on this treasure hunt until the final clue where it's like, will you go to homecoming with me? And this is sort of what it's like, right? Like, the Lord is saying, like, okay, come here. And you don't know, like, and then you start to feel like, well, I'm a little stationary, I'm bored, I want something different. And the Lord's like, I got this. Stay out of your own way. And then you hear something, or you feel something, or both, and it's like, I think I'm being led over here. This is weird. This doesn't make a ton of sense for me, but okay, let's go. And you know what the best part is? That place that you're being led to, it's already prepared for you. There's already everything that you need there prepared for you. Just like in a treasure hunt, I get there and it's like, oh, here's my next clue. Here's some flowers. It was ready for me. And that's what this is like with the Lord when we get out of our way and we let him lead us. It's like this grand treasure hunt. I'm making it sound way more fun than sometimes it is, because I know sometimes it's super hard and frustrating and scary. But every place you're being led to is prepared for you. When you trust in the Lord and you don't commit to having to understand it, and you acknowledge, like, okay, he's here. He's got this all ready for me. This is my resting place for a little bit, or for a lot bit. And you keep going, clue to clue to clue to clue. And he's not doing it to make it difficult for us. He's not trying to make anything hard. We make it hard. He just wants us to go on a treasure hunt. And so that's what he does. He makes our paths straight. Another nerd alert. So path here is, or straight is direct, upright, straight, or well-fitted. I love that one. I love that that word for straight is fitted. It is a path that is fit just for you. Not for your spouse, not for your kids, not for your employees. He's making a path that's just for you. And, like, this is the most exciting part of it all, right? Like, this is the crescendo of all of this. That as we continue to trust and we continue to lean on him and to acknowledge, like, we get to go on this wild ride, this crazy scavenger hunt or treasure hunt. Like, this is the adventure that you were created to partake in. Your life, if you feel like you have a boring life, you're in your own way. Because life was not made to be boring. You were not put on this earth to just sit here for 60, 70, 80, 90 years and then go to your heavenly home. Like, it's supposed to be a wild ride. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy. It's not always going to be full of joy and clapping and free shoes that may or may not be handed out. Sometimes, actually, I think that the straighter the path, the wilder the ride. Because it's greater than we can ever imagine. You saw in Isaiah 55, like, his ways are higher than our ways. And so if we're on the straight path, which is the one that is fit for us by him, it's going to be a wilder ride than the one that you can create on your own. Because the one we create on our own, we have to understand, and that leaves us with broken collarbones. He's going to make your path straight. He's going to take you on this crazy ride, and we have the responsibility to go. We have the responsibility to move. We have the responsibility to act. And you can come up with a million excuses. I've done it, believe me. But your current circumstances are not your prison for going to what's next for you, the next part of the treasure hunt. Your current circumstances are not your prison. You are your prison. I don't mean that to be harsh, but I'm just saying, like, and I hear it a lot from, like, a stay-at-home parent, like, well, maybe when my kids grow up and are old. No, you might be called to be a stay-at-home parent, and believe me, I think that's, like, the most noble, hardest, craziest job in the entire world, but that is not the reason why you're stuck. The number of phone calls and hands I needed to call on so that I could prepare this message and my kids were not left alone by themselves is insane. Like, we find a way. Like, that's your way of holding on to the horse, right? Is like, okay, I'm being called somewhere. Like, the Lord has a path for me. I need to get out of my way. What is my responsibility in doing that? And if there are circumstantial things that are keeping you from doing that, ask for help. Like, hello, that's why we're in community. You ask for help. You let someone know, like, this is crazy. I don't really get it, but the Lord is calling me here, but I have this responsibility. What do I do? Help me figure this out. Your circumstances aren't your prison. If he's calling you to somewhere new, it's prepared for you. There's a way that it's going to happen. You might not get it, and that's probably a good thing because it's his way, not your way. Going to what's next, going will usually precede knowing. There's a lot of times in my life where I have gone and I have moved forward and I have been super scared and super unsure of myself, but I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's actually one reason that I'm literally in Dayton, Ohio today. Going precedes knowing. And so if you're being called to move, get out of your own way and go. And get other people to help you along the journey. Have people watch your kids. Have people help you write up a business plan. Help people loan you money. This whole thing, the level of humility that it requires is wild, right? Like, you got to get out of your own way. You can't be the one that makes it all happen. You can't be responsible for everything. Like, drop your shoulders a little bit, stand up tall, make your head 12 pounds, be humble, and know where you stand in the kingdom. You were created by the Lord God Almighty, and you're still human. Your brain is that big. Going will precede knowing, but the great part is that when you know that he is leading you somewhere, you can jump because you're going to fly. If he's the one that's saying this is happening, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so I think 4 things, and then I'm done. How do I know that I'm moving aside? It can be really hard because you can think in your head okay, this all makes total sense to me. So I'm probably doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, the letter for today is A. A is the letter. How do I know that I'm moving aside? Acceptance. Accept your limitations as a human being. You're brilliant and you're a human being. You're brilliant and you're a human being. understand Isaiah 55. Acceptance. And how much, there's such a level of peace. Charlie talked about peace last week. There's such a level of peace that is necessary in this. It's crazy. And it's a muscle that you have to build and build and build. How much information do you need to have in order to sleep at night? Like, what's weighing on you right now? What's heavy on you? So when you fall asleep or you're trying to fall asleep and like those thoughts start flooding, like, what is the amount of information that you need in order to sleep at night? Sometimes you just have to accept that you don't know. His ways are higher. We're not leaning on our own understanding. If you are up all night trying to like compute all these things and make boxes fit in all Tetris with your life, you haven't accepted that you need to move out of your own way. His ways are higher. You're leaning on his understanding, not yours. And this does not necessarily mean that it's going to be painless. Like, I have my fair share of sleepless nights. But like Charlie said last week, peace plus pain, he said it a little bit more eloquently. Peace plus pain equals progress. You're not alone. You're not doing it alone. But if the amount of information that you need to sleep at night is keeping you up at night, maybe you need to move aside and trust with your whole heart. Stop figuring out plan B, C, D, and E. How do you know that you're moving aside? You have this reverence of him, like this awe that you are being led by the God of the universe. He's taken care of it. He's figured it out. He has a path that is fit just for you. Appreciation. Like, there are people, I think, that can do some of this and can live into Proverbs 3 a little bit, but they're super grumpy about it. Right? Like, they're not really excited about the journey, and like, this is it. This is all you get. This is the journey. You're on it. You're one day closer to the end of it than you were yesterday. And so there's this appreciation that we get to have where it's like, I'm not saying that you always have to like fake it and be happy and everybody can see through that, but it's like there's a richness to it where it's like, this is the ride of a lifetime. I'm on this treasure hunt with the Lord. Like, this is wild, and I don't have to be the one leading the charge. I can get out of my own way, and I can follow, and I can, like, actually maybe enjoy some of this. I don't know. Try it. And then action. How do you know you're moving aside? When he directs the path, are you going to walk it? Or are you going to say, okay, yes, I trust you, I'm leaning on you, you're here, lemon in my shoe. Oh, you're calling me to that crazy thing? Nope. Evie started saying nope. But, like, she doesn't just say nope. She says it repeatedly. If you want to see my husband fired up, watch Evie say nope 16 times in a row. But, like, this is the thing is, like, oh, man, I wonder what the Lord thinks then, because I'm saying, like, Evie, okay, I understand things a little bit more than you do with your 2.5-year-old brain, and so, like, here's the path. Here's the path that we're going to take. Nope. 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 And maybe we don't say it like that. That's how Evie says it. Nope. But if you're not moving, that's what you're saying. And the Lord's probably like, okay, but this path is fit for you. This is fit just for you, like I have created this for you. Nope. Oh, how frustrating. It's wild how much he loves us. Are you acting on what he's calling you to? Like, okay, so the path is cleared, you're here, you're ready to move, and then he says, like, do this wild thing. I thought you were going to just, like, call me to do a 21-day cleanse. I didn't know that you were going to have me do this, like, really scary thing. You have to act. If you're going to get out of your own way, like, there's a reason for that. You've got to move. I promise the story will be worth it. Okay, so in closing, here's like one of my favorite parts. I was given verses 5 and 6. Have you read 7 and 8? Okay, so we do all these things. We move to the side, right? Like the Lord is leading us down this path. Check this out. This is out of the Message. Don't assume that you know it all. We've learned this. Okay. Run to God. Run from evil. Listen to this. Your body will glow with health. Your very bones will vibrate with life. Like, this is what we get to have. Like, this is the treasure. Your very bones will vibrate with life. Your body will glow with health, with or without a 21-day cleanse. Like, this is just getting out of your own way, and your body's going to glow with health. You know why? Because the weight of the world is not on your shoulders. Your head does not weigh 78 pounds. You've gotten out of your own way. And so this is the reward you get to reap. Your body will glow with health, and your very bones will vibrate with life. And I cannot stress this enough. I do not care how old you are. I don't care about your biological age. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what kind of path you've been on. Like, this is available to you. You're still here. You're still breathing. I don't care where you are, where you've been. I care about where you're going. And so now you know how to get there, and this is what you get. Your body will glow with health. Your very bones will vibrate with life. Who doesn't want that? And like, okay, you got to work for it a little bit. I understand, like, I get it. I'm in my own way all the time. I'm in my own head. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm up doing all of my calculations to make sure my life works out, just like a perfect Tetris game. And the Lord's like, forget it. I have made this path for you. You get to rest. You get to breathe. Just follow me. And then your very bones will vibrate with life. It is so much easier to move ahead when you just move to the side a little bit. Get out of your own way. And enjoy the journey. Like, what a crazy wild ride that is in front of us. Like, and it can start like today, like right now. And maybe next Sunday I'll still be decaffeinated, but we'll come back and we'll all be like vibrating with life. It's possible. Just got to get out of your own way a little bit. So, with that being said, we are going to take just a few minutes and we're going to say, Lord, what are you saying to me in light of what I've heard this morning? What are you calling me to do? What do I need to tweak a little bit? Because maybe I'm blocking my own self a little bit. What are you saying to me in light of what I've heard this morning? And then Leslie will come up and close us out.
All right. Thank you, Mallory. Unlike her, I am caffeinated, so we're going to move through these announcements a little quickly. Our first one we have is giving statements should have gone out this past week. via email. Some of them went out multiple times, so if that's you, you're welcome. If you did not receive yours and you're looking for it, you can come ask one of us. We can help you with that, or you can email info@citychurchdayton.com, and we'll just send that your way. We have all those backed up in case you missed it. Next up, we have our January initiatives. There is still room in all of these. You can sign up for those on the website or in the app if you have that. There's a women's Bible study, going through a book by Lisa Turkhurst, a wine tasting experience, and then Monday night basketball. So if any of those strike your fancy, sign up. Also, February is not that far away, and we need your ideas, your initiatives, submissions for February. So think of what you're already doing that you can invite others into. It can be something elaborate, it can be a 7-week book that you want to go through with people, or it can be just one night you want to go hiking and have people come with you. It can be as simple or as complicated as you would like for that to be. So you can submit your ideas on the website. If you want to talk through that with someone first, we'd love to do that. So come find one of us after. Next up, we have prayer night. Every Wednesday night, childcare for those 5 and under, I believe. So join us Wednesdays at 7 right here in the brick room for that. And then next up, text to give. Your giving is so important to us. We literally cannot do this without you. There's a bucket in the back if you want to give in person, or you can text to give there or also on the website. And then finally, this week's breakouts. So for those of you who are here in person, we're now going to move on to breakouts. Those of you who are online, thank you for joining us. Our 3 breakouts today are the Discover MVLA 2021 thing at a time. See what I did there? That one is out by the coffee. Today we are talking very practically about meal planning, grocery shopping, and how to actually do what you say you're going to do. Today in here is deeper, going just a little deeper into the message with Mallory. And then the message 100 is out in the core values room talking through the weekly readings. So choose your own adventure, and we will see you in a few minutes.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for participating in our conversation with your comments and your questions. As always, we would love it if you would share the link to today's message. If you need anything, you want to know more about who we are, you can visit our website at citychurchdayton.com or send us an email to info@citychurchdayton.com. Have a great week.